philosophy. Thank you for joining us. We only have 45 minutes, so we go. This webinar is on mental health in the fitness industry. And it's interesting. There's no question that social isolation, career uncertainty, and homeschooling, Kimberly Spreen, during this pandemic has taken its toll on mental health across the country. In an industry focused entirely on health and well-being, we're going to learn from these top industry experts on how you can help your clients stay mentally and physically fit, and what you as the trainer can do to maintain it and improve your own mental health during these trying times. Because I don't know about you, but I'm on a wonderful roller coaster. So we've got great people with us. We've got Lynne and Victor Brick, good friends of mine that I've known for, 82 years now. They, over the years, have become synonymous with group fitness. They've got a chain of clubs, Brick Bodies, but they also are the largest Planet Fitness franchise owners, I think, in the world, actually. And they're also the founders of the John W. Brick Mental Health Foundation. They founded this after Victor's oldest brother, John, who suffered from schizophrenia his entire life, died of complications from the disease. We also have David Dorian Ross, who's a wonderful gentleman and the founder and CEO of Tai Chi Fit. He's the creator of the Tai Chi Fit method. And this is the coolest thing. He's also the national coordinator for the VA's Tai Chi for Veterans program. Very interesting, integrating fitness and mental health. And then we have Kimberly Spreen Glick, who's possibly the most unstable of us all, or actually it's me. She's had whatever, I can make fun of you. She's had over 25 years of experience teaching fitness and yoga, as well as professional and personal development. She served as the Senior Director of Group Fitness at Lifetime for over a decade and is the IDEA Program Director of the Year Award recipient. So I've got these amazing people. We've also got our wonderful Mike Lieber, who is our cinematographer for SCW. He does all our amazing videos, who's helping to run this webinar so that the rest of us don't fall off the face of the earth with technology. So thank you, Mike Lieber, for helping us. First thing I'm going to ask you guys is, how can we as trainers spot potential mental health changes in our clients? Because we know we're the healers. I don't know how about all you feel. I'm always the one give. I'm always looking at my clients, and if God forbid somebody walks off the screen or out of a classroom, if we are able to do live training, all I can focus on is the person who left the room. Well, how do we notice them before they leave the room? How do we take care of it? Lynne, you're nodding. I'm going to you first, girl.
Yeah. Well, I'm a former shock trauma nurse. So not only the physical body was always our primary concern, but also their mental health and well-being. And, just like we all know the signs and symptoms of a cardiac arrest, everyone, it's all of our responsibilities to know the signs and symptoms that someone is depressed. And some of the classic signs are hopelessness, just feelings of being overwhelmed, losing interest. Let's say one of your clients just doesn't want to come in to train anymore and is not answering your texts or phone calls. Increase of fatigue and sleep disruptions, sleep problems, even if they're not getting enough sleep and they're waking up in the middle of the night and they can't get back to sleep. Those are all symptoms that there's maybe some issues. Anxiety, panic, and feelings of feeling out of control, as well as changes in appetite and weight and uncontrollable emotions, and talking about death and other imminent situations. So it is all of our responsibilities to be aware of these potential dangerous situations for all of our clients.
And I listened to all the symptoms, and I'm like, okay, about 80% of those I'm experiencing. because we are going through stress. And someone just put in the chat box, Diana just put in the chat box, I have lost all my fitness jobs. And she just says, encourage them to exercise. And Victor, you were talking about the high intensity exercise, because we see this balance of, does this mean, to preserve my mental health, I need to do more yoga, I need to do more self-reflection, breathing and control, or do I need to do this, take Kimberly's amazing cycle class?
Well, I think what you're asking me is what different forms of exercise appeal to mental health, and the answer is that like my dad would always says, that depends. And for each person, it might be different, and it's kind of like experimenting and learning by the rule of eliminate process of elimination. But a lot of people don't realize that vigorous exercise changes the body physiologically. A vigorous bout of exercise is the equivalent of an entry-level dose of Zoloft. And of course, vigorous exercise releases serotonin and dopamine, the happy drugs. And so you literally, not just mentally feeling better, you physiologically are affecting the body. So it's kind of like you asked us earlier what we're doing during this pandemic, and I'm doing certain things, and Lynn's got back into competitive tennis, and for each person, find something. But whatever you do, try to make sure it's positive stress, that you're stressing the body to the point where it's got to work a little bit overtime, a little bit overload, not just that you're in this comfort level. It kind of frustrates me. I see people walking their dog leisurely thinking they're getting fitness. That's a nice, relaxing activity. It is not fitness. If you want fitness, pick it up, go into what I call the twilight zone. Overload, heart rate, get your heart rate up, and get yourself into that peak area where you'll get the most benefit. You can still walk your dog for enjoyment, but as you guys know, we all know as fitness professionals, low level intensity levels don't get as much of the physical benefit, and quite frankly, not as much of the physiological benefit either.
Interesting. And okay, DDR, David, Dorian, Mr. Tai Chi, talk to us. It's okay if we see two sides of an issue.
Yeah, so I think that it's not so much of an issue because the questions like this rarely come down to yes or no, but rather when and how. So in our project, we're working with veterans, and also I happen to be married to a psychotherapist who specializes in trauma and PTSD. And I would say before we get to what I'm about to tell you about the veterans, to give you a resource that all the guys who are watching here can do to, like Lynne was online, called Mental Health First Aid, that you can go and get some training in. The VA itself has a number of programs that you can take online to find out more about what is PTSD and how you can interact with people in your family who might be veterans. But Sara, you're right in that probably, I mean, the National Council on Mental Health estimates that like 13% of the people in America have PTSD. I think it's like quadruple that. And so it's not surprising that you see symptoms that you recognize, like I'm overwhelmed, I have, negative thought, like the whole gamut. The thing to be careful of, and this is when I was saying, of course I'm going to disagree. I've been in fitness for 45 years. I absolutely agree at the physiological impact of high intensity exercise. The thing about people with PTSD though, is their sensitivity to triggers, how easily overwhelmed they get. And the thing about the physiological impact of high intensity exercise is that by every marker, it escalates the overwhelm that, for example, veterans, and we have to be really careful about how we introduce certain kinds of activities. And Kimberly was really right. It's like we need to be careful how we define what mind body is, but I'm going to give you a sort of a generic one, and then I'm going to quit. And that is that these are things which de-escalate a reactive body and reactive, mental attitude. So, if you are looking, if you learn some of the symptomology of mental health issues or the beginning stages of trauma or trauma reactions, you need to be careful that you select the kinds of activities that are appropriate to the individual at the time. Could be, like high intensity is the very best thing, but you also have to be really careful because first, do no harm.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I just say something real quick? I
Yes,
never said anything about high intensity. What I said was positive stress. And for positive stress, for some people, it's a fast walk. Positive stress for some people is sitting on the beach and controlling their mind because they have a struggle to do that. There's this thing called positive stress, and it varies differently for everybody. And if you get too much stress, it's destructive. And if you don't get enough stress, it's ineffective. So the key, exactly what you're saying, David, is finding a sweet spot for every individual. And the term is positive stress.
All right, Kimberly, talk to me, girl.
Yes, ma'am. I do think that we as an industry need to broaden the definition of mind-body, recognizing that there's a requirement for mind-body connection for anything and everything we do. If we really take a step back and have a global view on it, and the more we can recognize that and work to redefine what that means to us as fitness professionals and what that means as we're in support of our clients and our students. To go back to your original question, I mean, everything that Lynn said, everything that David said, everything that Victor said, I think it's really up to us to be really good listeners, to be more aware than we ever have been with regards to the people that are in front of us, whether they're in person or on Zoom, and just being able to create a sacred space. I think that's one of the greatest things that we can do, is create a sacred space, just a safe place for people to be able to come to maybe test those limits a bit, to create the positive stress, and not to be a venting board, but to be a safe place where they can come and create experiences for themselves, guided by us, that will take them to what we know will be a better place for them.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I think if you have a question, if you as a fitness instructor have the even a shadow of a question that a client of yours has a mental health issue, you should immediately refer them out if it's an appropriate conversation, or you should absolutely not try to act as a therapist. Like Kim was saying, don't be a sounding board, don't be a hairdresser, don't be a bartender. Leave that to a professional.
I'm just trying to be a cook. I think that we were talking about during COVID
because food solves everything.
What we've launched into, and everybody knows I never cook. Kimberly always says, what did you say, Kimberly, that your goal is to keep small business?
My goal is to keep the restaurants open. So based on that mindset, I cannot cook. It would be a bad idea.
Well, I've started cooking, but I do. So what things that do work, I think that this has happened to a lot of us in our fitness career. In my class, who was just enjoying themselves in the class and came regularly every Tuesday, Thursday, every Tuesday, Thursday. And then one day she cornered me in the locker room and just poured her heart out and said, my mother just passed away. You kept me alive these past 6 months while I was caring for her. This was the only 2 hours of my day that I was gone from her. And I had no idea. So I also like the idea of just being there.
But that's not the same thing as mental health.
Right.
That's a functional individual who's having a hard time, and physical exercise, to Victor's point, is positive stress that will help a person through a hard time. That's not the same thing as mental health, and sometimes it's confusing if you're not have training about that.
But you touch on a great point, Sara, and that is about being present. And Kimberly, you talk about the sacred space, and that's really presence is the greatest gift you can give to any individual person, anyone, including yourself. Being present and being aware of yourself and your feelings. And sometimes as fitness professionals, we have to put our oxygen mask on first before we're able to help our clients, right?
So David's got to quit stealing my lines, because if you can read here, I wrote down notes, and under number two, the first rule of medicine, do no harm.
Right.
Do no harm. 100% correct. That being the case, unfortunately, 24% of the American population every year suffers from a diagnosable mental health issue. And during the pandemic, it's estimated it'll go up to 40%. So we're all going to run into people that are struggling with mental health issues. And while we should make sure not to diagnose and not to do any harm, the plain fact of the matter is most of what we do as fitness professionals will have one of two results as long as we don't go overboard, and that is no effect or any slight positive effect. So we don't have to be too paranoid about trying to diagnose, but we do not want to get out of our lane, and we do want to realize when it's way beyond what we can do. That being said, there are two things. The main two things that cause depression, which is the main form of mental illness that's happening now. The first, loneliness. The second, lack of coping skills. Loneliness, lack of coping skills. And what are we doing as a nation? Shutting everybody down, forcing them inside, and creating both of those situations. And everyone realizes they're lonely and that they can't commit, but a lot of people don't realize they have no coping skills. And sometimes a coping skill is nothing more than a class with Kimberly, or going out to the beach and meditating, or forest bathing, or some of these things. Like David, you said you find these things online and you just put in their tools in your toolkit and you try it. And like I said, let's take forest bathing, which is a phenomenal, a new concept, nothing more than basically walking in the woods, but it's the difference between walking on the path in the woods and walking in the woods. You literally immerse yourself in the forest. What's the worst going to happen? You're going to feel the same when you come out of the forest as when you went in. What's the best thing? It's going to help you calm your mind. So you want to make sure you do not do harm, but at the same time, you want to be there for people, like Lynne said, and maybe give them small suggestions of things that could possibly help, but certainly wouldn't hurt. One of the dangers is when you start prescribing supplements and dietary changes, which quite frankly are probably beyond the scope of most of us and can, under the wrong conditions, do harm. So
Correct.
I think I'm being really conservative because of the way that the population I work with so much. And we take a very, very careful attitude towards it. Personally, I think, Victor, you and I are like right on the same path. All exercise is positive. I couldn't imagine, being my age right now and being as healthy as I am without having a life and a lifestyle of physical activity. But I think that, because of my orientation to be so conservative, part of my fear is, oftentimes because I've been in the fitness industry for so long, I know what we do. Like there's no question in my mind about our behaviors, that we often say, God, come to my class one more time. I know it's going to be good for you. You know it's going to be good for you. And it gives a false sense of that is a complete addressing of a mental health issue. And that's really dangerous, right? So yes, get them to move around and exercise. Be careful about escalation, but also encourage them to seek out a mental health professional, because that's where mental health is really best addressed, not in the gym.
Right.
And Kimberly, you created the Inspired Life, right?
Yep.
And you did this, of course, I think the foundation was you rediscovering your own path that you wanted to take in your life, but you've also helped to guide, I think during COVID, especially, like hundreds of people, follow your webinars, follow your program. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I think that one thing to just bring into focus here, and I do want to bring up, Michael had shared a comment in the chat area bringing up the concept of flow, which, you know, that is basically being so absorbed in the moment with what you're doing that you lose track of space and time. You're just so in it. It's that getting, if you're into gardening and it feels like 10 minutes went by, but it's been 2 hours, you know, finding those flow moments. And I bring that up to say that I think that our role in our industry, to David's point, is not to diagnose or treat anything, but we can be a preventative measure. And that's actually what I created the Inspired Life to be, is to create courses and coaching to work with people to basically train on a day-to-day basis for the rainy day. Because the problem with COVID is that we basically all just got thrown into a marathon, and the vast majority of us had not been training. And so, of course, when you get hit with overwhelm and stress and uncertainty to a degree that's, you know, you've never felt before. I mean, life has always been uncertain. Tomorrow has never been guaranteed. But being thrust into this environment and this situation has just escalated our perception of that. And I think that one thing that we can do is encourage more preventative measures, which at this time can be more challenging because we're kind of in it now. But you made a really important point, Sarah, and that the fact that you're on a roller coaster, right? I think we're all on a roller coaster right now. And there are some days that are better than others. And I think that one of the things that we can all do for ourselves and encourage our clients to do without getting in there and diagnosing anything is saying, hey, you know, when you're feeling good, when you're having the days that are the better days, do the exercise, get out and move, get out in nature, find flow activities, whether it's gardening or running. We've heard of the runner's high. That's a form of flow. Take on the activities, sewing, knitting, whatever. I'm listing all the things that I don't do. I don't know why. Yoga, whatever. No, why would I run 26 miles when I could drive that? That would be insane. But I think that the more we kind of train ourselves when it's not a mammoth task to do so, like I'm not trying to get from this low level of feeling like crud to feeling spectacular in a flow moment, but as often as we can, when we're in a more steady place, find opportunities to move our body, to get our physiology in a better place and to get into those flow moments. What we don't realize we're doing is just like those daily runs would train for a marathon, we're mentally training for whatever life may throw our way next. And I think that we can really take a much more preventative approach. The Inspired Life is all about that, helping people recognize when you're in a good place, you know, what you can bring your focus to. Because at the end of the day, our entire life experience is colored by how we're choosing to bring our focus to the table, which is going to determine what we think about, our perspective, how we choose to see it. That's going to elicit emotions within us. It's going to help form beliefs. Those beliefs are then going to dictate the decisions we make, the actions we take, which will then develop our life experience. Like it's this circular approach. And the more we can get preventative about it, the better.
Wonderful. And Lynne, you're nodding because I know you have something to contribute.
No, I'm just nodding. I'm agreeing 100% with Kimberly. It's what she's talking about is salutogenics. And that's all about prevention and focusing on factors that help promote wellness. And there is this whole wellness wheel that includes not only physical and mind, body, and breath and spirituality and your productivity at work, et cetera, and socialization. It goes beyond that. Wellness wheel is really what we have control over. And the more that we can look inside, take that microscope and go inside each of ourselves, we can help to influence ourselves, put our own oxygen mask on first, as I mentioned before, and then maybe perhaps, as David mentioned, help refer people to other professionals or a life coach such as you, Kimberly, that can help other people that are in need.
And it's interesting. I love the idea of training, training. And before we turned the camera on and started the webinar, Victor shared with us his, what did you call it? The something 5?
The big 5. You know, when you go to Africa, you try to find the big 5. game, you know, elephant, tiger, and all that. And I have my own big five. I try to do every day.
But I love that because it's a daily activity that kind of possibly recalibrates or recenters you. You've got to share what it is because
I think it's important for everybody to have a routine and to strive to accomplish certain things in a day on a regular basis. So I have the big five, and I have the fortune of living here in Miami Beach. So every day I go out to the beach and I go do Qigong. So that's the first one. The second thing I do is I take a cold shower, which is part of the Wim Hof training concept. The third thing I do is some type of strength, traditional strength or cardio training. The fourth thing I do is I get infrared sauna. If you don't know, COVID cannot exist above 140 degrees, scientific fact. So we get in, Lynn and I get an infrared sauna. We have one in the condo here almost every day and get it up to 140. So I do the infrared sauna and I do the Wim Hof deep breathing before I go to bed. I used to do it in the morning, but now I do it. So those are the big five. If I do 3 of the big 5, it's a pretty good day. If I do 4 of the big 5, it's a really good day. And if I do all big 5, it's a phenomenal day.
That's good.
And it's practice. It's practice. That's what we're talking about.
But you notice it used to be all yang activity. It used to be all intense activity. Now I do between the breathing and the Qigong, I probably do more, and the deep breathing, I do more of the meditative, softer yang, yin activity than the yang.
That is wonderful. Mike Lieber also put in the chat box for us that the Wim Hof method. So if you guys want to look that up, because I'm interested in that. I thought that was interesting.
Can I just talk a little bit about salutogenic and pathogenic? The new trend in mental health is mental wellness. And it used to be mental health, physical health, everything was health care. And it's going to now kind of like the yin and the yang, self-care and health care. My brother abdicated his well-being, as did my mother, to a bunch of professionals, Johns Hopkins, best mental hospitals, mental institution in the country, supposedly just recently. And they drugged him with meds, stuck him in a corner, and just tried to make sure he didn't hurt himself. The movement is now to self-care. And you have these two continuums. The first continuum is the clinically diagnosed condition, from happiness and well-being as you move down, mild depression, then schizophrenic, and then suicide. And the other continuum is the quality of life. And it goes from floundering to flourishing. Salutogenic processes deal with helping to develop a sense of well-being. Pathogenic processes like psychoanalysis, like medication, like institutionalization, all the things my brother was on for 50 years, deal with the disease. And the trend is more and more to the salutogenic, preventive, as opposed to interventions. Let's get rid of the disease. Let's stop his psychosis. Let's get him off the street. Boom, 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 boom. So it's the self-care that is the thing. And we all have to take responsibility for our own self-care and for the self-care of those we know and love and that we interface with.
Oh, very well said. Extremely well said. Now, I'm going to dive back into the questions because I'm never going to get through them. What are our responsibilities and our limitations in how we deal with mental health issues in our clientele? I think we've been addressing that. I really think we've done an excellent job. David, I do want to ask you, DDR, I do want to ask you about the VA program and how Tai Chi has been, you know, frankly, how our veterans have been able to benefit from the Tai Chi program, because I found it just wonderful.
So we are working on the top of a lot of research done by the Veterans Administration over the past 15 years or so on the benefits of Tai Chi specifically, but also similar kinds of activities that to address things like PTSD, suicidal thoughts, depression, anger, but also chronic pain and TBI, traumatic brain injury. So as we look at research, oftentimes when it comes to Tai Chi especially, I'm very critical about their procedures that they've used, because a lot of times you don't get a lot of times the researchers don't know that much about Tai Chi, so they wind up using a protocol that maybe doesn't really tell you very much. But these studies from the VA have showed clearly that there is an abundance of research-based efficacy, of using Tai Chi to bring down depression, to elevate mood, to flourish mentally, as Victor is saying. And the two things that are, if you compare the intensity of a Tai Chi-based program with, say, some other kinds of activity or medication, you will not find that Tai Chi reaches some of those highest levels of intensity. However, the thing that Tai Chi has is there is zero contraindications for anyone that's ever been studied, and there are no known side effects of it. So you can't say that across the board about medications. And in the context of escalation that people with PTSD are prone to, you can't say that about other forms of exercise. So we do both Tai Chi and yoga as part of this program for veterans. And so in this population in particular, that's why we're using it. And the VA is very interested in using this as a first line of treatment, as opposed to what they used to do, which was giving, pain medications and oftentimes opioids. So this is a much better alternative, I think, for that.
That's very interesting. And now here's something. What resources are available to fitness professionals who may be struggling with mental health issues? I want to jump a little bit into some of the research that your foundation has done. We put the link to the John Brick Foundation.org in the chat box, because it's a not-for-profit. And you guys have dedicated, it's over $1 million you guys have dedicated to this research. How are you, what is the research that you're working on? What's the focus?
Well, first, real quick, David, you're reading my notes again, because I'm sure you'll agree the closest thing to Tai Chi is Qigong. Tai Chi's here, there's Qigong, and that way. So I couldn't agree with you more on that kind of activity. To be clear, we're raising millions of dollars, multi-millions of dollars. The goal of the John W. Brick Mental Health Foundation is to change the way the world treats mental health. And our vision, that's our vision. And our purpose is to fund and promote holistic programs such as exercise, nutrition, and mind-body practices, evidence-based research on those three, develop programs and services, and operate as a collaborative hub. Because the plain fact of the matter is, to your question, there are very few universal places you can go that have detailed studies. The Veterans Administration is probably one of the few, because people criticize the military for a lot of things, but quite frankly, they're dealing with tens and hundreds of thousands of people, and they usually have pretty good data. But
20 million veterans in the United States right now.
Right. But the problem is that it's not like, most people wouldn't think that. So you've got to kind of go and guess. And what we want to be at John W. Brick is a resource where you come to us, and we're not going to have all the answers. We're going to say, go to the VA, go to here, go to there. We'll have programs on it, and we'll have evidence-based research. The problem with most research is it's 16 people at a YMCA in Illinois for 7 weeks. We're doing
Hey, don't bash.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Iowa. I meant Iowa. Did I say Illinois?
Okay. It's another I word, and it's in the Midwest, but whatever. Go ahead, Victor.
But they're small population studies, and they're short term. And then you know how they determine whether they're effective? They ask the 16 people in the program, how are you feeling? What we're looking for is scientific-based programs, research. So we funded a research with the University of California, San Francisco, which is testing how the Wim Hof method, high-intensity interval training, and meditation affect depressive symptoms by recording the response of the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is a biomarker that indicates how you handle stress, basically. The faster your vagus nerve responds, the better you handle stress. I'm not a researcher. I can't tell you everything, how they do it, but the bottom line is we're not just putting a questionnaire out after 6 weeks. This was a 2-year study, multi-million-dollar study that is going to help substantiate which of these programs work for depressive symptoms and why. That being said, again, I want to go back to everyone is different, but it will help. The other thing we're doing is we have a scholarship program by which if anybody on this call had a legitimate study they wanted to do, you apply to the John W. Brick, we could fund it. The more research, and for instance, maybe there's something in Tai Chi, David, I don't know, I'm just throwing that out. We're looking, there's no one answer. And it's getting back to the do no harm. We want to find out the things that do work, and we want to find out the things that don't. Either one, that could be dangerous, or two, might, as I said, be ineffective and yet promoted as being the panacea. So as you can tell, I'm pretty excited about the work we're doing. And what we want to try to do is help people, like some of the people on these calls. I've seen some of the questions. You would come to the JWB and kind of going back to what David's saying, we're not going to analyze you and to do a over the phone psychoanalysis. We're going to say, well, you should consider going here or going there, or look at this website.
It's a
or this
resource
program.
center too.
So it's the collaborative hub that I mentioned that we're trying to make available.
And Kimberly, when you talk about preventative care and the self-care, what are some of the things that you address in your inspired life? And we've been working with Kimberly because she really does some amazing
awesome.
stuff and trying to work with life coaching. But what are some of the things you've been able to integrate into your program that you've seen have worked in this preventative sphere?
I think it really comes down to bridging the gap, the major gap in our industry between physical fitness and complete well-being. And so I do work from, Lynn, you had mentioned a wheel of wellness. I created a wheel of well-being that I've coached from for years, and it's what I train instructors and trainers on to be able to be an additional preventative measure and again, sacred space for people. And so it's recognizing that, yes, physical well-being, that's an important part. We need to move, we need to fuel our body, we need to rest, but we also have emotional and spiritual and intellectual, which I want to come back to. But then I think that social well-being has taken a huge hit over these last several months, of course. And then environmental. I think we need to recognize that there are some things in our environment we have control over, that we could make some changes that would spark joy within us. It's small changes, putting a quote on a wall, a picture of a loved one, things that in spaces where we spend a lot of time, which for a lot of us, it's a lot more indoor time. We could make some small changes in those spaces, and then also get outside more. When it's not like -32, Sarah, sorry, or whatever it is there, I don't know.
Okay. Thank you,
But
Miss California.
Intellectual. So knowing that we have some amazing fitness professionals on the call, this is what I really want to encourage you to do, to benefit not only your own mental health, but also to upskill and to be able to better position yourself to be of service to the community that you love. And some of you have mentioned you're not teaching anymore, but I want you to really think about how you can widen the lane a bit and think of yourself, instead of as a fitness professional, as a wellness leader. How do you make that happen? Intellectual well-being is all about fueling your brain. We know the importance of fueling our body properly with good, nutritious food, but what are you fueling your brain with? And for those of you who are either not teaching, or maybe you're like me and your classes were cut to less than half, as Sarah, you mentioned, I'm in that percentage where I'm teaching much less than I used to. With that extra time, could you be taking a course, getting another certification, just upskilling in a way that not only fuels your own well-being, but recognizing that your growth and evolution will be the growth and evolution of the community that you serve as well.
You're absolutely correct. And when, just for myself and living through this pandemic, you're incredibly isolated. I actually took up pickleball. I started cooking. We were talking about the different things that we've done. SCW took, we've taken a huge hit because we don't have live events, but we really have focused on our certifications. We have certified thousands of people over these past, now it's 9 months that we've been in this. We cut our certification prices in half. David's doing the Tai Chi certification. You've done more for Tai Chi certifications for us during the pandemic. And we have a meditation certification. We're going to be doing the life coaching certification. We have a yoga certification. And of course, we have strength training. We have all the traditional exercise, all the traditional certifications that are out there, but trying to broaden your lane, it really helps, because we can't dive in like we used to, like always seeing my friends 3 times a week. What I worry about is, Victor was mentioning that 30% of the health clubs are never going to open again. And it might be because of financial poor planning. It might just be positioning in the market because of COVID. But for whatever reason, we've lost 30% of our jobs there. And then the 70% that are open, we're going to have diminished classes that are available because of size limitations, space limitations, and whatnot. So we have a responsibility. I mean, I'm talking to all of you people that are on this webinar. We have a responsibility to continue servicing. We can't help who we are. It's like I always joke, give. That's who we are. But we are a service profession, and we don't treat this as a job. We may only work 3 hours a week, but this is not my job, man. This is my career. This is my identity. And I worry about what's going to happen to people when they have their identity stolen because 30% of the clubs are closed. I can't get as many classes. I'm not making my connections. So I think that idea of fueling yourself and taking care of yourself, and Lynn, as you've said twice, putting that mask on first, taking care of yourself really does mean something. We're almost out of time. So I am going to start with DDR, David, and I'm going to ask you, just give us some closing inspiration here.
Oh my gosh. Well, come and work with us, because we have more classes than we've ever had before. And all of the gyms that are closing, we're teaching people how to retool and refigure that. But I think that Kimberly has hit the nail on the head, really, of all of us right now. That whether you call it preventive care, self-care, or, training your body and mind and its soul at the same time, in anticipation of stuff that's going to happen in the future. That's how we live through a time like this. And that's why I love what Kimberly's doing.
That's great. And Lynn?
Well, I think that, the COVID has been very challenging, not just physically, but in terms of the mental health. It's created a mental health crisis. It's really referred to as the secondary pandemic. And we need to do all that we can to help lessen the blow of this mental health crisis. And everything that we do on a day-to-day basis for ourselves, our practices, and being inspiration to other people who we touch on a daily basis is really key.
Very great. And Victor?
Well, besides the obvious of agreeing with everything Kimberly said, Gallup, you guys all know who Gallup is, did an international poll for the fitness industry, the wellness community, and they found that all 4 major age groups, boomers, Gen Xers, millennials, Gen Yers, all 4 listed, and they asked them, why do you work out? It used to be, David, when you and I started working out, and Sarah, we're all in the same cohort, people worked out for two reasons. The men wanted to get bigger, the women wanted to get smaller. All four age groups said they work out for mental well-being. Mental well-being, all four. They didn't say mental health. They didn't say look at mental well-being. It is up to us to realize that that is the big need. It will, the mental health crisis and the need for mental health will outlast and will be with us long after the economic and the medical carnage has recovered. And we as fitness professionals need to become qualified to help become part of the healthcare delivery system as opposed to fitness. We are part of the healthcare delivery system, the tip of the spear, and we have to rise up and take that challenge.
And Kimberly, you talked about wellness.
Absolutely. You know, we do. We need to expand our definition of our industry from fitness industry to the wellness industry. And I also love the term well-being, like the well-being industry. I want to encourage you all to recognize that this is within your power. As Diana, I said to you, everything is figure-outable. Everything is figure-outable. You can expand your skills. You can add to your toolbox. You can increase your knowledge bank. You can put yourself in a position. I know that Diana had said, you know, I need to recognize I'm not just an instructor. Not that there's anything wrong with being an instructor or a trainer, being considered a fitness professional. These are gifts of service. But yes, you are so much more than the narrative that you may be wrapping yourself up in right now. So recognize that the solution is not only within your hands, the solution is you. And the fact of the matter is in your upskilling, in your willingness to learn more, put some more tools in your toolbox, get some more resources, you're not only going to feel more uplifted yourself, but now you're going to be able to coach others and take them further down the path. Because as we get to the other side of this, Victor, to your point, the healing will just be beginning, which means that the communities that you have been serving for however many years, they're going to need you. They're just going to need you to show up differently. And so I want to encourage you to be willing to show up differently. We can do this.
Show up. Show up. All right. And you guys all showed up tonight. I really appreciate it. DDR, thank you for joining us. Kimberly, thank you for joining us. Lynn and Victor, as always, a pleasure. Thank you all. And thank you, Mike Lieber, for running this and helping us with sound and video. And everybody have a good night. Stay strong.
David, see, I even got one of these around my neck. Similar to you, man. We simpatico.
I know it. We got to talk.
Go, man.
We got to talk.
Oh my God, they're going to start dating. Okay.